Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at the Iranian F-14A. Now this thing here, as you know, is the current event vehicle, and it's been given to me in a little test drive, I guess, one day before you guys get access to it. Now the main thing with this thing, or the main difference between this and the F-14 that's in the tech tree, is that this thing has access to or a couple indigenous missiles. Actually, mostly it has access to the Fakur 90, which is, I guess, the AIM-54 equivalent, or it's kind of a hybrid between an MIM-23 and a AIM-54 or something along those lines. Basically, it has insane acceleration and also pretty good range overall. It is, I think, better than the Phoenix, but a bit less maneuverable. Then you also have access to the sedjils. These I haven't really used. These are the Hawk surface-to-air missiles fused onto a plane. I guess they thought that was a good idea. Unfortunately, these aren't really too maneuverable, so I don't really tend to use them that much. Although it may be funny to utilize them in battle. I tend to use the other alternative, the R27R1, just because it has pretty decent range, pretty decent handling characteristics, and it's overall better than the AIM-7E2. You also get access to AIM-9Ps. I haven't actually used these yet in all the battles that I've played, of course. They're not as good as AIM-9Hs. Then again, they're also still pretty usable. Alright, so the first thing what I do here when I first spawn is actually turn my radar to TWS mode and set it to 93 kilometers. You do this by pressing Y158, 1 to activate the radar controls, 5 to turn TWS on, and 8 to extend the range. And you can see that, we spotted a couple targets there on the radar. And what I do now, or what you should do now, is kind of look around the targets to see if anyone is climbing. So there we go, we see one guy there. So we lock him up and make sure that TWS is looking at him, just so that it keeps tracking him and keeps pointing the radar towards him. As you can see, all the other targets have now disappeared, and there's only, I guess, 3 remaining on the radar display. These are all targets that are also climbing, or at least somewhat in the same postal code. Now, with these new Fakur 90 missiles, they're actually really fast, and they also have a sustainer on them, which means that they keep their speed for a long time as well. So I'm actually going to test a 60-kilometer launch. Usually what I do in Phoenix is sort of 45 kilometers if at high altitude, and usually 30 kilometers at low altitude. I felt a bit optimistic with these missiles, so I decided to launch them here at 60 and 55 respectively. I decided not to launch the other guy because I wasn't really too confident that they'd actually hit. This was kind of more of a test run to see how good they'd actually do, and they actually did surprisingly well, which you'll see pretty soon. Now what I'm doing here is kind of flying off to the side, just so that the radar is still looking at them, but I'm not like flying directly at them, just so that if they launch a missile at me, I can quickly kind of evade. Not sure if that's how you're actually supposed to do it, but that's how I do it, and well, it worked this time, so that's the good news. There we go, 1 kill on one F-14B, and the other one is also about to hit. I actually gotta go to the missile cam here to see how it does. And yeah, wonderful stuff. So 60-kilometer launches do actually work, at least for now, when nobody has access to this plane, because they don't exactly expect the missile to be that fast. Now, of course, here's the third target that I should have launched the missile at. I didn't, so I'm going to launch one now at him. A 30-kilometer range is actually pretty short, and it means that the target's going to see the missile coming at them, or it's still going to have a trail. That's not exactly good, and he's already started evading. So yeah, he's going to start popping chaff, and my missile, as far as I know, is going to miss. So yeah, you kind of have to make sure that the targets don't really know that it's coming, or they don't expect it. Unfortunately, it looks like another missile got to him first, so that actually probably would have hit. But it didn't, because someone else got there before me. What I'm going to do now is turn my radar onto 37 kilometers, still keep it on TWS, although I don't really like TWS at close range. But yeah, I've just kind of kept it on here. And I'm going to try and pounce on a couple planes here below me, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But yeah, we'll see how it does here. Alright, so after playing around with the TWS there for a bit, because I couldn't really select the Mirage in front of me, I decided to launch at this Harrier. Not exactly this murder story, I think it's going to slam into the tree or something. So yeah, I should make sure that first of all the planes aren't notching. That missile just completely forgot about who it was targeting, or probably got notched or something, so that's why it wasn't properly tracking him. Now what I've done here is kind of gone above the enemies, and what you can do now is use the R-27s or also the AIM-9Ps to try and lock people up here. I think I've spotted somebody, and there's a missile coming towards me though, so I'm gonna have to quickly chaff, and it hits me, but it doesn't do anything, so I end up being basically unscathed from that Mirage there. I'm gonna pre-flare him a bit. These engines run really hot, and the Magic 2s are also very dangerous, especially at close range. That's why a bit of pre-flaring isn't exactly that bad of an idea. There we go, he's flared. I'm going to quickly start flaring before his FOV shrinks. So yeah, there we go, successfully able to evade it. This thing, especially when damaged, or really any jet when you're damaged, loses a lot of speed once even like one part of your plane is like slightly damaged. So that's why I'm going really slow here. And I'm going to try and get the nose around to target that Mirage. There we go, ACM lock him, fire an R-27, and he starts evading. However, it hits him. I guess you give some and you take some or whatever. Both someone's missile and my missile both do no damage there. Cool, I guess. I'm not sure if that's intended, but I guess that's my cost, or that's the cost of getting lucky. I'm gonna try and loop back around here to try and get a second R-27 off on him, which does actually work. I do, because I'm just so slow. Unfortunately, he's a bit of a low altitude here, so even if I do launch at him, he kind of, yeah, manages to outmaneuver it. Probably should have either launched it a bit earlier or something. But yeah, he manages to get away, and right now I'm a bit too damaged to be able to continue to fly. So I'm gonna go right back to base, and he actually dies now. So yeah, that's very nice of my teammates. Alright, I'm just gonna skip to the end of the battle now, since nothing really happened in between that. I guess my two teammates dogfighted two Mirages. They actually killed the one, but unfortunately the other one got both of them. So yeah, it's not exactly ideal here. I'm just kind of chasing down the other Mirage. Now he's going to try and fly towards his airfield, which is why I'm kind of sticking to the coast here, because his airfield is to the left of me. There we go, he starts turning now, and I'm actually going to try an ACM lock here again, but it isn't quite working, or it didn't really work before either. So yeah, it's not really too reliable. I switched to my R-27s here, because yeah, at this range you're not using the Fakuras. There we go, launch a missile, pull up, and there we go. We managed to hit him. Sometimes when you pull up, when you're using a radar missile, the enemy also pulls up, which means that they can't multipath the missile, which leads to them dying, which is always nice. And just like that, I get myself 4 kills that game. Alright, on the next battle here, we're flying once again at the sky at 7,000 kilometers. Usually what I do in this thing when I first take off is hit Mach 1, and then I kind of gently climb so that I keep Mach, and I eventually level out at 7,000 or 6,000 meters depending on the map. And here, I'm actually, this video here, this match was filmed before I actually yeah, got that 60-kilometer kill, so I launched it here at 45. Probably should have launched it a bit earlier actually, so that it would have been a bit of a more unexpected hit. Now here, I'm trying to launch on the other guy. I don't even know why I do that. I shouldn't have done that now in hindsight, but it was a bit too late. You can see that he was kind of not flying directly towards me, but kind of perpendicular. And usually that isn't that good, just because a missile can lose lock, and also they can, yeah, I guess extend how long it flies, which means it loses maneuverability and speed over time, which is, yeah, not exactly ideal. Here you can see me try and notch one guy, or notch something, or just try and fly away. I don't really want to get locked by anybody here. And I actually go to the cam here just to see how my missiles are doing. Now the other one I kind of just forgot about, but this one here is actually doing quite well. It's properly tracking the invisible plane there. That's an intended game feature or something. Unfortunately, it's a bit too slow, and it looks like he just maneuvers on time to be able to dodge it without any chaff there. So since both of my missiles missed, I'm going to try and loop back around now and try and just smite down a couple of enemies below me, because usually they don't really look up, especially when they're in a dogfight. They don't really care about what's above them, so you can kind of smite down pretty easily. Here, I'm gonna try and mess around with the TWS again. Admittedly, I'm not that good at this. Or I'm not that, I guess, experienced, which is why I kind of have a couple of difficulties. But there we go, we lost someone all the way down there. Might as well. It looks like he's maybe going towards the base or something is what I thought. That's why I launched it there. And it's also a very hungry F-4S here. So I'm just going to launch this one at him just because, well, why not? I did use an R-27 though and not a Fakur just because at this range I didn't feel like using it. Now I fly away, I don't want to get hit by whatever other plane that is. He's busy flaring, unfortunately. He was, I think, flying a bit too high there, and he does die. I'm going to try and launch this other F4J here, and I do actually manage to launch the missile, unfortunately. Or not unfortunately, it does actually manage to hit there, so that's very nice. But unfortunately, yeah, there's a AIM-7F jump scare from my enemy F4S that I didn't see. But still, we got 3 kills. Another day, another climbing to 6,000, 7,000 meters and launching Fakurs. Now this time I also launch it at I think 40 kilometers or something, which yeah, isn't ideal. Should probably would have launched it earlier for the funnies, but I just wanted to make sure it's as fast as possible, which isn't really that smart actually. It's only that one guy here at high altitude this time, and so far it doesn't really seem like he's doing too much, but yeah, we'll see what happens to this missile here. I'm going to fly away now. I think my missile's gone pitbull mode or whatever it's called. So yeah, we don't have to like constantly keep a lock on him. Although it looks like, there we go, we do get a wonderful kill. It's an F4S, I don't know why he's climbing. You shouldn't really do that, especially when you're facing F14s. Just because, you know, they can just fly away. While your AIM-7 has to have a constant lock to be able to hit the enemies. So yeah, don't do that, guys. Another F4E here trying to lock me or something, I don't know. I got an RWR, so that's why I'm not flying directly towards him, and it looks like my teammates are feasting upon him because they launched 5 gajillion missiles at him. So yeah, we should be completely fine on that front. I'm gonna try and loop back around now, or try and, yeah, turn my TWS to 37 kilometers here, just because I don't really need more range, especially when they're all very close together. But yeah, launching Fakurs at targets which are maneuvering isn't really that optimal, just because yeah, it's pretty easy to outmaneuver these missiles, and it's pretty easy to outmaneuver Phoenixes as well, but it's even easier, I guess, with these Fakurs here. They're more geared towards shooting at targets at high altitude. I'm trying to look for something here. That's probably not a target, or that isn't a target. That's just a ghost in the radar, or maybe some chaff or whatever. And I'm having a bit of difficulty as usual with the TWS. Probably just a skill issue. I don't really know how to use the radar, or yeah, I'm just not too well versed in it or something. I'm gonna try and dive down onto some enemies. Now this MiG-21 looks very juicy. I'm gonna try and launch one at him. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? And I also launch one at this Mirage here, as well as lock this F4S up with a R27 here. And there we go. We're gonna not lose a lock on him. There we go. Get a good red circle on him, and yeah, launch that one missile. Unfortunately, both of my Fakurs missed, either because the Mirage is or the planes maneuvered too much or whatever. But yeah, we only get 1 kill with the R27. I'm gonna try and loop back around now, probably onto this MiG-21 here, just because he's yeah, nice and slow. I'm gonna try and launch an AIM-9P on him, but at this range I'm not really too confident that it'll hit. They're not AIM-9Hs, they don't have the good range. So I'm gonna try and lock him here with the radar first. I'm gonna try doing that in PD mode. Probably not that smart since we're moving at the same speed, so it won't really see him. Instead, what you should do, as soon as I realize here in battle, is to switch the radar mode to not TWS, switch it to just normal SRC mode, and then yeah, just launch a rear aspect Fakur at 2.7 kilometers. And I don't know what he expected. He's just kind of staying in a straight line. And yeah, it really is just that easy. Although admittedly, if he would have done literally anything else, he probably could have survived that, but he didn't because he flew in a straight line. Alright, next battle, we're back here at 8,000 kilometers. And you can see that I haven't launched it yet. Once again, I should have launched it earlier. I didn't because, yeah, I wasn't confident in the missile's capabilities before. Now he's the only guy there. He's kind of still flying in a straight line. So if all goes well, this missile should hit, especially at this altitude. Like I said, they're not going to outmaneuver it. And what they can do though is turn away and chaff it. That is something that they can do. And it looks like this guy here is definitely turning, and he actually will successfully chaff this one. So yeah, not all, I guess, high altitude targets are guaranteed kills. You just have to remind yourself of that. Or when someone launches a Fakud or AIM 50 for you, you can just do a 180-degree turn, pop some chaff, and you should be good. You don't have to do a full 180, but you know, it is what it is. Now, since he's kind of flying away, I kind of forget about him. There's no real point of going after a target that knows how to defeat your missile. So I'm going to try and go for, yeah, literally anybody else. The tornado here looks pretty juicy, so I try and ACM him. Unfortunately, it's limited to 9 kilometers, and it looks like another missile gets him. So yeah, there's no real point of worrying about him. This guy, still flying away, I can tell by looking at the radar. However, this guy here is kind of flying directly at me. So he's a very juicy target, 25 kilometers, a very short range. But yeah, I still decide to launch it just because, you know, why not? Also that Harrier below me. I could have gone after him, but I didn't because I kind of wanted to keep my radar pointed at that plane there that's up high. Because I'm not sure how this thing's or what this pitbull or what the pitbull range on the Fakud is. And there we go, MiG-21 bis at high altitude. That is like top 10 mistakes. Wouldn't recommend flying that thing at a high altitude just because you don't really have any meaningful radar missiles. But hey, you do you in your premium plane. Now what I'm going to try and do is turn back around to these guys down here. I'm pretty confident in my team that they'll get rid of that Kafir and the Mirage or whatever that was. So I'm only going to focus on the targets that are more farther away from me, just so that I can maybe get myself a funny launch on a target. You can see here that I'm going to try and cycle through them. This MiG-23 here looks pretty juicy, especially now that he's going to try and fly between two canyons, which means that he can't really go too low altitude. So that's why I launched at him. And there we go. Domes him very, very nicely. I'm going to try and go after the MiG-21. He's dead, never mind. And there's actually a tornado behind me though, so I'm going to turn around. I'm going to keep the Fakud. I could have also launched an R-27 at him, but the Fakud is funnier. So that's why I kind of just launch at him. And I keep lock. I really don't have to keep lock, but I did. And there we go. Wonderful stuff, and he's also dead as well. Tornadoes are very good targets to launch at, just because they can't really maneuver that much. So yeah, that's why I always recommend you target those planes if you ever have a spare Fakud on hand. But there we go, that F-4J UK has also died now. Now I just have to look for the target, which will actually take quite a while. So I'll just kind of skip to where I find him. There we go, we're above their airfield, or very, very close to it. And you can see that my RWR is kind of being pinged there, and actually kind of goes solid. And when your RWR goes solid, it's how the RWR, or the radar warning receiver on this plane, is really tragic. So it doesn't actually like directly tell you that you're being locked. However, if it like starts screaming at you, you're being locked, or it starts like constantly being lit instead of like being pinged, that means you're locked, and that means you should run away. That goes for really any missiles or any radar. And you can see that I chaffed that first missile there. I still don't really know where he is, or I kind of have like a sort of clue. I pinged him on the map for my team, and now I'm just gonna have to try and find him. There we go, second missile, and there we go. Just gonna do another turn there, just try and chaff him. There we go. It doesn't see me anymore, so I notched it. And unfortunately, though, I used a lot of my chaff there. So yeah, we're kind of low on that right now. Though it's gonna be a bit hard to defeat a third missile if he does decide to launch one, because I'm here at high altitude. So he can just use normal SRC mode, and the missile would still see me. There we go, it launches one. My RWR is solid, which means it's probably a radar missile. Fortunately, I'm going to try and fly to the can't speak. Fly to one side, then to the other, just that the missile loses energy. And somehow that worked. I don't know how it did, but it did. So that's nice. That next one's going to be an IR missile. I'm just going to have to flare that. And now I can go into a full dogfight here with this guy here. I'm going to launch or manually set my wings to 0% sweep, just so that I have as much maneuverability as possible. And we're just going to do a bit of a goofy little turn fight here. I'm not exactly the most pro pilot, but I do know, I guess, nothing actually. I'm just holding the S key. This is really not the most skilled gameplay, but then again, if it works, it works. And we're just going to kind of keep out turning him here. The Mirage isn't exactly the best dogfighter, so that's why it's pretty easy to kind of out maneuver him, I guess, sort of. And now he's kind of straightened off. So what I can do is, or no, he hasn't. He's going to turn back now, which is weird. He should have just either kept going in a straight line or kept turning. That arc time defend there, it's going to miss. So yeah, I'm just going to use my guns on him. And yeah, that is that. That was the last guy, so it didn't really matter what I did there anyway, but maybe I should have pre-flared him just so that his missile wouldn't have locked me. But yeah, there we go. In the end, I think this thing's really fun. Definitely was worth the grind. I think I'm going to keep this vehicle just because, yeah, it's just really that fun. In the Fakur 90 missiles, they're funny to use. You know, they have great range, they're really fast, and they're kind of just funny. This thing also has a couple other funny things, like the proximity guided bomb. Always a joy to use, although I haven't actually used it yet, but you know, maybe I'll use it as an anti-cast thing in Ground RB to vibe check a Panzer or something. Those have access to other missiles, but I tend to not really think about them except for the sedjil. This thing could be also worth your time, but I'm a bit skeptical of it just because you know, it doesn't really turn that well. So yeah, that's why I'm a bit skeptical of using it, but maybe you guys would have more success in it. I'd probably use it as something like, what is it? A Phoenix at home, just because it has really good range. So it's probably best used at like 30 kilometers or something, and not like, sub 10 kilometers like I would use the AIM-7 or the R27. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this video here. A bit of an air video where I did post commentary, not exactly, usually my style, but hopefully it's been at least somewhat entertaining for someone. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video then. Actually, this week on Saturday, I'll be doing a gambling run. Well, I'll at least be gambling my 22 million silver lines here. So if you want to tune in for that, then feel free to do so. So yeah, bye bye.